Welcome back to Elevate from Burnout to Bliss. I'm Reginald Clark.
And I'm Ebony Clark. And today we're tackling a powerful and very necessary conversation, closing the wealth gap.
For over 300 years, the playing field hasn't been level. And even today, the average black household only has a fraction of the wealth of the average white household. But here's the thing, the story isn't finished yet.
That's right. We're breaking down what wealth truly means, beyond income and beyond salary, and how shifting from consumerism to ownership can change everything for generations to come.
We'll talk about the 3 must-own assets that can help you close the wealth gap for your family, plus smart strategies to direct your cash flow and use debt the right way.
So grab your notebook, lean in, and get ready for a real conversation about mindset, money, and movement.
This is Elevate from Burnout to Bliss, and today we're going to close the wealth gap.
Let's do it.
So yeah, y'all, I'm very excited to be back with you this week. I was out last week.
Yeah, we missed you.
Yeah, man, you and Monica did a great job. Monica Terrell. No, Genius.
Genius.
I went
you
way
went way back.
Way back. No, it was great information. I was able to catch it out of town. It was absolutely outstanding. The reason I'm so excited to be back with you guys, the conversation we're going to have today is part of a seminar that I've done, I don't know how many, countless times. Of all the seminars I've created and done in various places, churches, employment, just wherever I've done these seminars, this is absolutely my favorite one.
Yes.
And because the conversation is so appropriate to helping people see just what they need to do to, close this wealth gap and prepare their families for it financially.
And when we're talking about the wealth gap, we're talking about between Black Americans, white Americans, and brown Americans.
Exactly. And we're gonna get right down to the numbers. I don't think people realize just the sheer distance between the races as it relates to money.
Mm-hmm. It's mind-boggling.
It really is, and it is a problem. And where we are right now in this country, this conversation needs to be spread. I want you right now to text your friend, call, say, hey, tune in. You got to get this information. Grab your pad if you hadn't already.
It's ever so important, especially now.
Especially right now. So let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to talk about, when I'm doing this presentation, one of the first things I highlight is that we're starting from the initial screen actually says from 345 years behind. Mm-hmm. So people have asked me, so what does that even mean? Well, I'm going to give you just a little history just to help us set the table here. 1619, the year of 1619, the first enslaved Africans were brought to the colonies. Okay, mm-hmm. If you add 345 years to that, that's going to take you up to 1964. All right, this is the signing of the first Civil Rights Act, where it's supposed to have become illegal to make the playing ground uneven. Right,
supposed to.
Suppose everything from that point forward was supposed to be in a fair playing ground where everybody had equal opportunity to do whatever it is they wanted to do in the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness.
Right.
Whatever the case
property.
May be. It's really property. But that's a whole different conversation. But everything was supposed to be leveled at that point, right? So if you look at it, there was a 345-year head start that white households had that black people did not, all right? But we're going to even talk about that. You don't have to be a historian to know that even after the 60s, things haven't been even. But that's the whole concept for 345 years behind.
Right. So I know that during the presentation, there is a very, very important clip, one of my favorite clips in the presentation. So
you know what? I'll play that clip right now.
Okay, that'd be good.
Let's go to the
clip.
We'll
talk about it.
The 400 wealthiest white people in this country have the same cumulative amount of wealth as all 41 million black people in this country combined. Let me restate, so you know that I did not misstate. 400 people, the same cumulative amount of wealth as all 41 million black folks combined, right? And the wealthiest 1,000 people, the same amount, 1,000 white people, the same amount of cumulative wealth as all black and Latino folks in this country combined. Now, no one in their right mind is going to suggest that there are 400 white people that have worked that much harder than all black Americans and 1,000 that have worked that much harder than all black and Latino folks. And yet, if that's not the explanation, what is? Well, This inertia, this ability to rack up advantages. It's like an 8-lap race. I've got a 5-lap head start. Here's the deal. I'm supposed to cross the finish line first. That's how that happens, right? And in fact, if I start out with a 5-lap head start and at the end of the race, I'm only up by 4, I'm not the faster runner, right? So in fact, if any of those gaps shrink at all, it ought to tell you something. That is that some folks are actually working harder, running faster, metaphorically speaking, and still, because of inertia, lag behind. So we have to think of racism that way.
Man, you know what? Every time I hear that, it just does something to me. Let me ask you, Ebony, what was the first thing that stood out to you when you? I know you've heard that multiple times now, but when you hear that, what's one of the first things that really grabs you?
For me, it's the fact that for the 400 wealthiest white Americans, their wealth equals all of Black Americans. So 41 million people. So obviously, we're all living in today's times, and you have your own level of success. I mean, we're not in slavery right now, physical slavery, but still to see that, and we know it's unequal, but right. To hear that it literally equals 400 people's white wealth equals 41 million. Yeah, that's just a crazy disparity. You know what? I want the listeners to be able to participate too today. Yeah, give them the page where they can go and comment as we're going through this episode. You can go to facebook.com/elevatenowtraining and just comment on the latest post.
Do it again. Give it to them again.
Facebook.com/elevatenowtraining.
Right, and we'll be monitoring it throughout the episode. But so again, to go ahead and get to the meat, we're just setting the table right now. As you can see, there's a huge disparity. So as we work our way through this, let's start to talk about if we're going to close the wealth gap, if we're going to close this gap, let's talk about what wealth truly is.
Right. Okay.
And first, what you got to understand is that there's 2 definitions of wealth that you can operate from. One is an accountant's definition. And Ebony being an accountant, we're going to hear her definition of wealth first. Go ahead, Ebony.
So an accountant's definition of wealth is assets minus liabilities.
Okay, make it more simple for us.
So everything that you own less everything that you owe, O-W-E, owe, the difference is your net worth. It can be positive or negative. So if you own more than you owe, then you have a positive net worth. If it's the other way around, you have a negative net worth. Okay. So what about the financial planner's definition, since you're a financial planner?
So financial planners, we look at it a little differently. We don't measure wealth in terms of assets minus liabilities. Well, assets come into play. But what we're looking at is it's a function of time.
Okay.
Wealth is a function of time, not necessarily dollars. And basically, it's the amount of time you can sustain your current lifestyle without having to go to work. All right. So you may be, a couple of hours wealthy. I hope not. You may be a few days, few months, years, or it may be indefinite. Right. But how long can you just think about this, listeners. How long can you maintain your lifestyle right now if you don't go back to work? That's how wealthy you are from a financial planning perspective. So both of these definitions, it don't matter to me which one you adopt. But just use one, use both. I personally use both. But both of these definitions, if you can internalize the definitions and insert yourself in the formula, then you can start to see what it is you need to do to really, truly make yourself more wealthy tomorrow than you are today. All right.
And another thing we need to be clear, today we're talking about the wealth gap and not the income gap. Those are two different things.
And go ahead.
So the income gap is actually what you earn. Right. So like you have an annual salary or what your business earns, that's your income. And the income gap is actually smaller than the wealth gap.
Right.
The wealth gap is what you actually have to keep and grow.
Correct. So, the answer to closing the wealth gap isn't, let me say this. There are multiple answers to undo this problem, because there's multiple issues that's created this problem. But again, please, let's not conflate earning more income with having more wealth. The income gap, that's a separate problem, slightly related to this. They're not necessarily joined at the hip, but they are cousins. But the income gap is absolutely real, but we're having a slightly different conversation today. Mm-hmm. All right. One more thing I want to add. We're going to look at is what I would call the micro look at the wealth gap. We're not taking the macro look. So there are issues beyond what we're going to discuss today, things that have contributed to the wealth gap, right? Things like underemployment, things like the school-to-prison pipeline, housing segregation, racial profiling, shortened lifespan. All of these have contributed to this wealth gap, but those aren't the things we're going to tackle today. And I pray that there's somebody out there working on those things. I'm sure their job is much harder today now. However, my personal calling, my professional calling, is what people do at the personal level, at the household level. All right. So we got people that's out there working on the government laws and different things like that. Although they're being quickly eroded, but that's their calling. Right now, I'm going to talk to you. We're talking to you about what it is you can do yourself to change these figures for your family. And
private companies, too. I do want to shout out Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's is very active in racial injustice, school-to-prison pipeline, and partnering with organizations that help fight against this. So shout out to Ben & Jerry's.
Shout out to Ben & Jerry's. I'll be visiting you guys later today.
Oh.
I hope my trainer's not listening, but go ahead.
So let's get into some stats.
Yeah, let's do some stats. We're going to get stats out the way, but because they're very important, but we're going to get some out the way in this first segment before we get down to, again, some of the solutions. Well,
according to a study by AmericanProgress.org, the median black household wealth is $24,100, while the median white household wealth is $189,100.
Hold on, I think we got to... we can't just gloss over that.
Sure.
You said the median black household wealth, $24,000.
$24,000.
So again, and I know they're using the accountant's definition of that.
Correct.
Right. So think about it. So the median, which is the one in the middle, is not quite the same as average, but the median household wealth is, you add up everything they own, take out everybody they owe money to.
Correct.
It's about $24,100 left.
Correct.
Whereas if the average white family
median.
I said right. The median white family does that same thing. It's $189,000.
And let me hit you with one other. So we talked about the difference between median and average.
Okay.
The average difference in the wealth gap between white Americans and black Americans is $838,220.
Whoa, man! Say that one more time.
$838,220 is the average wealth gap difference.
That is insane.
I'm at a loss for words.
I know. So, again, guys, we're just setting the table. So here's a few more stats for you to consider. And this one is one of the most sobering for me, is that black families, and I said it in the introduction, we have secured the last place in the race for wealth. All right. If you take all the other races that's and I'm specifically talking about this country, we're dead last. Latinos have passed us. Of course, the white households have passed us. Asian Americans, we're dead last. All right. So again, we're not going to focus on all of the macro issues. We're talking about what it is we can do. And here's the most startling thing. Well, I'm probably going to say that a few times. One of the most startling things is this has not changed since 1964.
That is crazy.
Since the year everything was supposed to be made even, it literally illegal to make an uneven playing ground. The stats have not moved one iota, one jot,
wow,
one bit. So, as a matter of fact, it's only grown worse.
Wow.
Right? It's only grown worse. So, we're gonna really be looking at more personal responsibility things that we can do. So I want you listeners, comment now. Go to the Facebook page that Ebony gave you, and just answer the question: what does wealth mean to you? Are you more focused on the time piece of it or the money? Which one is which one's most important to you?
And also comment and let us know, why do you think these disparities persist, and do you think the pandemic worsened them?
Well, absolutely, it did. But we'll talk about that. I want to switch gears real quick just for a second. I hope I got time to. I want to introduce something that we're going to elaborate more on in the second segment when we come back off the commercial break.
Okay.
And that is an article and this will be a great time to introduce. I want, if you're listening right now, go ahead and Google. Here's what I want you to Google. It's a 2021 article in Forbes, and what I want you to Google is the 300 billion Black American consumerism bag. All right, it should pull it up. The 300 billion Black American consumerism bag, and the rest of it says it breeds big business opportunities.
Okay.
And what you're going to see from this article, this is an article that was written kind of as a dog whistle to the American businesses on how much money there is into selling things to African Americans. Because the thing is, most people think that, you may, when I said earlier that the needle hasn't moved since 1964, you may say, well, Reg, we make, our families have way more income, than our families did back in 1964.
Right.
And that's true. There is more income, but there's not more wealth.
Right.
All right. And this article is it doesn't talk about that, but you're going to see that this article is pointing to a problem that we have.
So this article wasn't written for us, basically.
No.
It was written about us.
It was written about us. It was written to companies saying, hey, if you're not selling stuff to them, you're missing out.
Right.
All right. So that's one of the things I want you to check out, because we're gonna really dive into it in this next segment here in just a second.
Man, I can't wait to get into that conversation. We will be back shortly. It's time to elevate. Hey, Elevate fam. Are you a business or brand looking to get in front of an audience that's all about leveling up in life, business, and mindset? Then let's partner up. The Elevate podcast is now accepting sponsors. That means you can get your brand heard by a growing community of go-getters, creatives, and purpose-driven listeners right here on the show. Whether it's a product shout-out, an ad spot, or a custom collaboration, we've got options for you. Want in? Hit us up at elevatenowtraining.com. Let's elevate together.
Today's episode is sponsored by P3 Financial Group, where we enrich the lives of our clients by helping them plan, protect, and prosper. Call P3 for all your tax and financial planning needs at 901-209-4015. That's 901-209-4015.
And we are back. So, guys, today you're joining us this is the Elevate podcast, and we're talking to Reginald Clark and Ebony Clark, and we're talking about closing the wealth gap. Again, very serious conversation. Right before the break, we were telling you to look up the article in Forbes magazine, where there was an article written basically telling American companies, any companies that's listening, that was reading rather, how much money there is in creating things to sell to African Americans.
Right.
And one thing I want to point out before we look at this article in detail is that this article is not written on how much money we save, how much money we invest,
right,
how many assets we're accumulating. No, this article was written on how much money they spend.
Right.
All right. That's what it's talking about. That very first paragraph, it says that $47.8 million strong, African Americans are the second largest consumer group, presenting businesses with a $300 billion opportunity stake.
$300 billion.
$300 billion. But think about this. What number does it say we come in spending? Second. But what number did I tell you we came in wealth?
Last.
Dead last. I hope y'all are starting to see the picture here. Second, as far as the amount we spend, dead last in the amount of wealth that we've accumulated.
So again, you were talking about, if you just poll general people, they would say that from a financial standpoint, black people are better off now in 2025 than we were in 1964. However, we may be making more money right now, but we're also spending more money. And we're spending it on things that don't appreciate in value. We're spending it on things that are not assets, things that are used and done. Things that are consumed. Consumed, right.
That's why you call it what? Consumer. Exactly. Consumerism is the constant buying of things that's just being consumed up. They're not assets. They don't grow. They don't appreciate. This next sentence says, despite being 13% of the population, black households accounted for just under 10% of the nation's total spending. Just think about that.
Right.
Just think about that for a second. Spending on goods and services, again, these aren't assets, and this is in 2019. However, if companies interpret this data as proof that there's little profit in serving black consumers, they are making a multi-billion-dollar mistake. This is from the article. Again, this article is being written to say, hey, guys, if you're not taking advantage of these people spending all their money, you're missing out.
And this article was not a warning to black people.
No.
This article was an announcement to major companies and corporations to say, hey, y'all need to be selling things to black people. So if you don't already have a product that black people will buy, then now's the time.
Exactly. Go on down. Drop down a little bit. Let me drop down a little bit.
Go ahead.
Right here it says African Americans have $1.4 trillion in total spending power. And that's an impressive number. It says even more so when you realize that's more money than Spain, Mexico, the Netherlands, Turkey, or Switzerland generate annually.
That's crazy. So our spending collectively
yes,
is more than some nations.
Correct.
So everything that a country buys, we spend more than that.
It says, and this is another sentence from the article, it says, it's nearly unimaginable to think that the collective purchasing power of black Americans is greater than most developed nations. Basically, we got enough money to where we could be our own nation in terms of spending.
Wow.
You know, or in terms of other stuff, if we did other stuff with it besides spending.
Exactly.
All right. So again, I want to take a step back, and I've seen there's a particular push. There's a lot of different people trying to tackle this issue, but I saw this one lady. She was very adamant in saying that the racial wealth gap has nothing to do with personal responsibility. We got to change the government. We got to do this. I look at it differently. I said, you know what? Yes, we need those people working on policies. We need to fight, the decimation of DEI. We need to do all those things. But again, I'm speaking directly to what you can do in your household. I think it's a multifaceted problem. It takes a multifaceted approach.
And it's kind of like there's a story that I like that fits all different scenarios, but it was a little boy. He was going down the beach throwing starfish back into the ocean. And an older man told him, you cannot throw all of the starfish back in the ocean. It's just impossible to do it for all of them. And he said, but I can save this one.
There it is.
And I can save the next one. So we have to, it has to be a joint approach from government, organizations, a top-down approach and a bottom-up approach, what you can personally do to affect the wealth gap in your family.
Exactly. That's a great example. I like that example. I want to share one more paragraph from this article because, again, this is just... It's crazy. It says, the last paragraph I'm going to share, it says, Nielsen research shows black consumers, check this out, y'all, are taste makers when it comes to setting the tone for mainstream brand choices. We're going to talk about this. I'm in the article. It says, our research shows that black consumer choices have a cool factor, that's in quotations, that has created a halo effect, influencing not just consumers of color, but mainstream as well, according to ratings company. So here's what that means in layman's terms. What that means is the brands we choose, the things we choose to buy, we make them cool. We make them popular. I don't know, it's just us. It's that it factor. But whatever we choose to go into, it creates a halo effect around that particular brand, that particular product. Now everybody wants it.
Right.
We have the ability to do that. We need to do it more for our own business, our own manufacturer. But just think about that. We're the ones that set in the tone. I can remember. So here's a prime example. I remember when everybody was into rims on a car came regular. Matter of fact, my first car had 13-inch nugget rims. 13, man. What, you laughing a little hard on that?
13.
Yeah, it was nice. But then people got into the 16-inch and then the 18, the 20s. And now those things are coming on car standard these days.
Exactly.
Because we like them.
Or a good sound system in the car.
Yes.
Those are standard now.
Exactly.
Because that's what we wanted.
Because that's what other people were getting to they were going small and small and small. We like them big. And they became the standard model, standard issue.
And the thing is, the adage.
He who has the gold rules?
Yes. So
that is the golden rule.
Okay, yes. So we need to take
Y'all
that
think it's
same
doing to others?
approach.
No, he who has the gold rules.
So we need to take that same approach in how we spend our money.
Yep.
And we need to turn internally and buy assets, things that actually appreciate. And then we need to focus our efforts and our dollars on our own businesses and businesses that support us. Absolutely. We don't need to be spending our money with businesses that don't support us.
Right. And this is not a, we're not, this is, I was going to say, I hope this doesn't make anybody upset. No, I hope it makes you upset. I hope somebody is getting angry to the point of action, intelligent action, not just, firing off in the wind. But this is not a divisive type of conversation. This is a call to show you what has happened and what we need to do going forward.
And the power that our dollar has.
Absolutely. If you don't think so, ask Target.
Yeah.
They experience firsthand, So let's talk about, we talk about consumerism, and we've talked about what it is. Remember, consumerism without investment is what perpetuates the wealth gap, all right?
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with liking nice things. I like nice things. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you aren't putting substantial amount of your spending power into investments, then you're just making the problem worse.
Yes.
Right? And one of the things that we teach is buy the assets, and we're going to talk about in just a little bit what 3 assets. There's a lot of assets out there. We're going to wrap this whole episode up. I'm going to give you just 3 assets to focus on, just 3. Buy assets, though, that produce income that allow you to, and that's income, consume it how you want to consume it. But you own the asset first, and then let the income from the asset buy all the stuff you want.
Because that asset is going to continue to produce income. It's
going to continue to produce income. You're going to close that wealth gap. You're going to be able to pass it on to the next generation, teach them how to do it, and then again, with all the people working on the governmental stuff and all that, plus what you're doing on a micro family level, we'll start to see this thing change.
Yes.
So let's change the narrative. So this article, again, was written about the fact that we consume. We consume everything, and, hey, sell stuff, they'll buy it. But when which
is insulting.
Well, I mean, hey, it is what it is. If we take this same article and we're going to flip it, let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
so what's the opposite of a consumer is an owner. All right. How do we change this narrative and become more owner mindset, ownership mindset versus consumers? One of the great examples that I like to go to, and some of you all have probably seen me do this in my presentation. I think back to the year, let me take you back to the year, it's 1985. That's the very first year that the Air Jordan shoe was sold.
Okay.
All right. At that time in 85, that shoe cost $65.
Okay.
And I can't remember. Let's see, 85, I had to be 11 years old then. No way I was asking my mama for a $65 shoe. That was completely out of the realm of possibility. But anyway, let's say, for instance, in 85, you had the $65 to purchase this shoe, right? And if you've never worn that shoe, which most people did, I'm sure, you can actually resell that shoe today. They got shoe exchanges.
They sure do.
It's crazy. About $1,500 is what you get, maybe even more, that you could get for this shoe now, right? But again, most people probably consumed the shoe, wore the shoe out, which is worth nothing today. So let's play the what if game for a second. What if instead of buying the shoe, being a consumer, you decided you wanted to be an owner of the company that made the shoe, right? You can do that, guys, simply by buying stock in the company that makes the product. Exactly. So now we're talking about making that shift from being a consumer to an owner. So again, stay with me. In 85, if you had taken that same $65 that it would have taken to buy that shoe, and you said, I'm going to buy the company, I'm going to buy stock in Nike that is making this particular product, at that time, Nike shares sold for 16 cents a share.
Wow.
Okay. So if you take $65 divided by 16, you would have gotten about 406 shares of ownership in Nike. Well, Nike is trading right now around, what's it trading at? I just saw it earlier.
Just looked it up. It is trading at $66.51.
Okay. So right now, that's what Nike's trading at right now. So if you take 406 shares multiply by, what's that number?
$66.51.
Then that $65 today would be worth $27,000.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now I'm gonna tell you, just about a year ago, Nike was much more than that.
It sure was.
Nike's kind of been free fall lately for a few reasons, but anyway, just think about that. You turn $65 into $27,000 just by, and you could have bought plenty of Jordans with that, right? But just by being an owner first and consumer second, we got to stop putting our money in things that bling, shine, and move.
Right.
We got to start putting our money in things that grow. All right.
Exactly.
But again, this is a very good example of being more ownership mindset than consumer. So the next time they write these articles, they're going to be talking about how much money we've invested, how many assets we own, and what we're doing with that.
And obviously, you got to take a practical approach because you still needed a pair of shoes. But what we're trying to say is also invest in the company. Do both. Don't take all of your money and put it in things that get used and consumed.
That's right. Own the company. And what I tell people, own the companies you do business with. If you like a particular brand, own it.
Own it.
Buy it. Buy stock in it. Now you walk in the store with your chest out a little more, head a little higher, because you walk around like you own the place because you do.
Right.
You own a piece of it, you do. You know? You can go to the board meeting if you choose to. Your ownership meetings, you can do all that.
And like we said, Black people, the things that we like influences other people, and we are really quick to tell other people to try this or try that, or girl, I like these shoes, or that it will hit home a little differently if you were doing what you always do, but you know that you own a piece of that company. So as other people are buying it, it's making you more wealthy. Absolutely, guys. We have to start owning the businesses that we do business with. That's the only way we're going to shift this paradigm, shift this narrative over to being more ownership driven, asset driven, and less consumer driven. And start with your kids too. Teach them. Our kids have stock in the things that they like, and Disney. And this is not financial advice. I'm just telling you personally, Disney, Roblox, things like that, because those are the type of things that they're interested in. So they should be owners of that as well. Yeah, and we're kind of jumping ahead of the next segment a little bit. Sorry. So when we come back, we're going to give you the 3 assets that you must own to start closing this paradigm, to start closing this wealth gap for you and your family. We'll be right back after these messages. Remember, it's time to elevate.
Today's episode is sponsored by P3 Financial Group, where we enrich the lives of our clients by helping them plan, protect, and prosper. Call P3 for all your tax and financial planning needs at 901-209-4015. That's 901-209-4015. We're back. Again, this is the Elevate podcast from Burnout to Bliss. And you are with Reginald and Ebony Clark, and we are talking about closing the wealth gap. So what I want you guys to remember as we go forward is that you are key to closing the wealth gap. So what are some ways that we can close the wealth gap?
Well, before we can close the wealth gap, we got to start with income. And earlier we talked about the fact that the income gap is different from the wealth gap, but income is certainly a factor of wealth. All right. So what you have to do, write this down, the first thing you have to do if you're serious about closing your wealth gap, you got to direct your own cash flow. You know, the difference between a wealthy person and a poor person is not the bank account per se, it's what they do on payday.
Wow. Okay.
It's what they do on payday. One of the first things you have to do, all right, so, you know, you've all heard the adage, you got to pay yourself first. But what does that look like in a practical sense? Now, I will say this, if you're a faith-based person, then I would put in, you know, return tithe and offering first. But, you know, so that's your personal preference. Beyond that, paying yourself first, what does that truly look like? Well, if you participate in your 401k or your other employer-sponsored plan, you're paying yourself. Congratulations for that. But you also got to have savings and investing, right? And, there's formulas that we use or that you should use. I just say this. The simplest way to put that out there, just save and invest a percentage of your income, not a whole dollar amount, 10, 15, 20. You decide right now. But again, you should be doing that. But you have to, the main thing I want to get here, you have to direct your cash flow. You cannot let it run wild on its own because you will not have enough.
So go into that a little more, directing cash flow, just so people understand what you actually mean.
Sure. One thing remember about cash flow, cash always flows to the people with the most self-control. So you have to tell your money where to go. So the first stop, and cash is like water, that's why I call it cash flow. It takes the path of least resistance. So the first stop on the flow of cash is yourself, saving and investing. The second one is your living expenses. This is just what it takes. How much money does it take to support your lifestyle? Things like groceries, gas, things of that nature, things that a lot of we shouldn't be using credit for. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. And then beyond that, you're talking about bills. Now, that's the difference between living expenses and bills. Living expenses are things we can't do without. Bills are the things you go out and create. Right.
And another way I like to talk about the difference between living expenses and bills. Living expenses are things that you don't typically pay off.
Correct.
Or if you do, it's over a longer period of time.
Right.
So that may be your mortgage, your utility. You can't pay off your utilities.
No.
You can't pay off your property taxes.
Right.
Like
Exactly. There you go. And then beyond your living expenses, bills, you have entertainment. This is a big category. Sometimes people want to lump it in with living expenses. But going out to eat is entertainment. That's not the grocery bill. Going to the movies is entertainment. Vacations, entertainment. So you have to direct your cash flow through all of these different stoppers along the way. And then at the end of the month, there should be a little left over. Even after you do all these things, there should be at least $1 left over. If there's not, I tell people all the time, this is the early warning signs of a financial heart attack. You should have at least $1. After you've done your saving, your investing, your living expenses, bills, entertainment, you should still have at least $1 looking at you. Yes. Hopefully more, right? So, but again, so step one of closing your wealth gap for you and your family is directing cash flow. And those are the things, and there's tools out there these days to help you do it. You got Intuit purchased mint.com. That's a great one. But you have to track your income. Whatever you track, you control. Go ahead.
And the reason why this is so important is because you're going to use that money for what Reggie's going to talk about next.
There you go. Absolutely. So now that you become a master, and I want to say this, directing cash flow is a skill. And if it's a skill, it's something that can be taught. And if it can be taught, it's something you can master. All right. Once you become a master at directing your cash flow, then that's when you'll use more and more of your cash flow to purchase assets. And so what I'm going to do right now is give you those 3 assets that I absolutely believe you must own. The first one, you about to say something else?
Yeah, I was going to tell you the first one since I kind of jumped the gun in the last segment.
Go ahead.
So the first one is stocks.
Okay.
And stocks represent ownership and growth. You're going to talk more about it, but they offer dividends and leverage potential.
Absolutely. Just like Eb just said, guys, when you buy stock, and we talked about it in the last segment just a little bit, you have become an owner. Buy some stock. I'm not telling you today which one to buy. That's general investment advice, but I'm telling you, own stock. When you buy stock, I want you to call your friends excited about that. Just like you would that new car, say, hey, come over and look at my stock certificate. So I want you to smell it. I want you to spray some new car scent on it. Do whatever you got to do. But I want you to be excited about owning stock and whatever it is you own stock in. Here's the thing. Of all the different asset classes, whether it's, precious metals, whether it's, what other asset classes? Common stock, precious metal, real estate, whatever it is, no asset class has returned the same amount of appreciation over time as common stocks have. So just know that they appreciate more than any other asset class over time. Again, and when you own a stock, you have officially become a producer and no longer a consumer.
And some people may not know how to go about purchasing stock or may think that you need a minimum amount of money to do that. So what's the best way for those who may not know how to purchase stock?
Yeah, so, it's not nearly as complicated as it may sound. You simply opening up a brokerage account, very, very similar to opening up a bank account, and you can do that. These days, you can do it online. You can go directly to Schwab. You can go directly to Schwab bought TD Ameritrade. Robinhood. There's multiple places where you can do it. Open and one thing I'm really excited about is today people are doing it way more than what they have in the past. So a lot of places you can do that. Of course, you can call us, but this ain't even a commercial about us. It's way bigger than that. But just know, I think you should own some stock in something. And again, don't overcomplicate it. Just think about the companies that you use. Exactly. Like the example we just gave before about, owning just what if you had purchased back in the day, instead of using the $65 to buy the Air Jordans, what if you used that same amount of money to buy stock in Nike, what they would be worth today? So just something to think about. So the first step in closing the wealth gap for you and your family was directing cash flow. The second was buying the 3 must-own assets. Of those 3, I've given you the first one, and that is common stocks. The second one's my favorite, actually. It's real estate. I love real estate. Absolutely. I want to say one more thing about common stocks real quick. Okay. Remember, if it's held in an account, I shouldn't say remember because I hadn't said it, but if that stock is held in a non-retirement account, you can borrow against it. And I'm telling you that for a reason. I'm going to come back to that. Go ahead, Ed. Okay. No, real estate, one of the things I love about real estate is that it creates wealth in 2 ways. It's like hitting something from both sides. So on one end, when you have a mortgage, say you have a mortgage on this piece of property, you're paying the mortgage down. So that means that more of it is equity. So equity is the difference between what the property is worth and what you owe on it. Right. But at the same time, it's appreciating. Correct. So what you owe on it is going down, but what it's worth is going up. And it just creates exponential growth. And that difference between it, like you just said, the difference between the equity that she just talked about, you can do what? Borrow against it. Same thing we can do with the stocks. We can borrow against it. Y'all, the reason why I keep referencing that, it's called leveraging. We borrow against assets all the time to do one thing, buy more assets. And with the income those assets produce, that's what you want to use to go buy your shiny, bright toys with, right? You want the asset, own the asset, whatever income it produces, go buy your stuff and have fun with. But go ahead. And there's so many different things that you can do with real estate. So if you wanted to create a monthly cash flow, you could own property and rent it out. It can be a short-term rental like an Airbnb or a VRBO. It can be a long-term rental where you have permanent tenants in it, and that's creating cash flow. If you wanted a lump sum payment, you can build a house or buy a house and flip it and sell it, and that's going to give you an amount of cash right there. You can also invest in apartments or commercial property. It's just so many different ways that you can invest in real estate. It really, and you mentioned apartments. I'm going to talk about it. And I would say this, everything we shared with you guys, this is what we do ourselves. So, I'm just putting it out there. We looked at apartments years ago. I think it was 2017. Those apartments were owned in the environmental court, which if anybody knows about that means they're about to be demolished. And we actually purchased those apartments for $45,000, 12 units. And they were at one step from being knocked over by the city. And they should have been, because that's the where they were at the time. We put in the money, and it wasn't just me and Eb. It was I got 2 other business partners, one of which has been a guest on the show. But we rehabbed those apartments, brought them back up to speed. They're now 10. We now have tenants in it. They're worth 3, 4, 5 times more than what they were when we purchased them, and they cash flow every month. Every month we've been able to borrow against it to buy more real estate, and it's just a great asset to own. Great asset to own. Yes, definitely. All right. Now, so the 2 assets so far I've given you is common stocks. The second one is real estate. I'm gonna give you the third must-own asset, and that is cash value life insurance. I dedicated almost probably about a half a show one time to why this is such a powerful asset. Without going into all the details, I want you to keep in mind that cash value life insurance is not like term life. Term life, both of them have their place. Neither one is better than the other. They're just 2 different tools. One is like a screwdriver, one is a hammer. They're just used for different things. Cash value life insurance, again, is an asset. It builds cash value. The money grows tax deferred, and we can borrow against it. See a common theme? All 3 assets I've given you, common stock, real estate, cash value life insurance, we can borrow against these assets to purchase more assets. Well, you can do whatever you want to do with it. My advice is that you use it not to go on vacation. but to buy more assets.
Right.
Because now we have a monster that's constantly feeding itself, right? That's kicking off more income that allows us to get the things we want to get.
Right? And like he said, that when you talk about cash value life insurance and term life and whole life, don't let anyone tell you that one is better than the other. They are just different tools.
Absolutely.
A lot of rumors out here about them, but they are all tools. And you pick the right tool for what you need to get done, the right job.
That's right. And if anyone wants, deeper dive into these three assets or anyone in particular, maybe you want to, Reg, I heard so much conflicting information about the cash value life insurance. I'd be glad to talk with you about it. You put a group of people together, I'd be glad to come do a presentation for you. So just let me know on that. But let's push on this conversation because we're getting more and more up against the clock here.
Okay.
One of the things, now here's the third thing. Third thing you have to do if you want to close the wealth gap for you and your family. Number one was
directing cash flow wisely.
Number two was
3 must-own assets.
And here's the third one, is using your liabilities wisely. Notice I didn't say get out of debt. I did not say that. What I said was, let me say it a better way.
Yes.
Use debt wisely.
I was about to say define liability.
Yeah, so let's talk about using debt wisely. So there are advisors who would say, or, self-proclaimed financial gurus who would tell you, get out of debt, get out of debt. Debt's terrible. That's not what I say. What I say is use debt wisely. Now, if you can imagine a traffic light, I'm going to help you color code debt. Red light means stop. Well, if you got some red debt, this is red debt. Red debt is when you're using debt for things like you're buying stuff that's not assets at all. Vacations, gas, movie. You should never be financing gas. You can burn gas up in a weekend, but you're paying for it for 2 months. That makes no sense. Yellow debt, like a yellow light, means proceed with caution. Yellow.
Now, what do people do in Memphis when it's the yellow light?
Well, before them boys got here, it means floor it and hope that camera don't catch it. Now it means slow my butt down because them boys might be in line.
Right.
But so you got 2 weeks ago things changed. But anyway, yellow debt is using credited debt. You're buying an asset is something that has value, such as a home, such as a car, although it's depreciating. But it's not an asset that puts money in your pocket.
Got it. Okay.
So it's taking money out of your pocket, but it does have value.
And I want to add, just for clarity, when we talk about assets and things that appreciate, just think about it in terms of whether you can sell it.
Correct.
So with red debt, you can't sell pictures from your vacation. You can't sell your memories. Yellow debt, you can sell your home. You can sell your car. So just wanted to clear that up.
Thank you for that. Now, and green debt, this is green means go. So this is where I differ from some of my colleagues that say get out of all debt. Green debt is debt that you get where the cost of the debt is less than the income you're making from it. Let me say it a different way. You're making more income from owning the debt than what the debt is costing you. So, for instance, if I borrow against my stocks and buy more stocks, they appreciate more than what the interest on the debt is costing me. That's green debt. If I borrow against my house and I buy some rental property and I'm making more with the income from the rental property than what the mortgage is costing, that's green debt. So I encourage you, you want to be calculated, but you do want to go out and get some green debt because it allows you to be able to buy more than what you could just off the cash that you have on hand. We're coming real close up against it.
Okay, just go over the wealth formula real quick.
Okay, the wealth formula, again, you all just remember, the wealth formula is everything you own, subtract out everything you owe. What you have left is your wealth. Or how long can you sustain your current lifestyle without having to go to work? Y'all, you have to internalize these formulas. You have to work with it. You have to make it a part of your life if you're ever going to close the wealth gap for you and your family. We actually, believe it or not, we got to sign off here.
All right.
We may come back and do a part 2 to this particular episode. There's so much more we want to give you. But I will share this very quickly. If this is a conversation you want at your church, you want at your business, you want for your family, let us know. We'll be glad to come out or have you guys come into the office and we continue this conversation because it's just what we've been called to do, is help people close the wealth gap in their own life.
And we can continue talking about it. Again, go to our Facebook.com/Elevate Now Training and let's talk about this episode.
All right, y'all, we got to get out of your way. Remember, it's time to elevate.